Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome. Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. My name is Michelle Zellner, your host. I am driving this train solo today, but I'm going to do my very best to channel my inner Sasha to bring you all her enthusiasm as energy as I chat with you about two things that are incredibly close to my heart: movement and mental health. May is National Sports and Physical Fitness Awareness Month, as well as National Mental Health Awareness Month. And you might not be shocked to hear that they actually can help each other and they are intricately intertwined. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of movement, maybe also give you some tips on how to embrace it as a true part of your lifestyle so we can stop having this on again, off again relationship with it. I'm also going to talk about how movement really is necessary to manage and enhance your mental well-being. I'll give you a little sneak of some information I'm going to share at the end. I'm going to be offering a free webinar later on in the month. So if you are curious about truly movement as medicine, I hope you'll join me for that. But let me just start out by talking about movement in general, why a human being is supposed to move. Back in the day, if you were stationary for an extended period of time, it's because you were sick, injured, or dying. And if you are sick, injured, or dying, your body's going to do everything it possibly can to help save you from what it is that's trying to take you out, which means you're going to kick into fight or flight. This is your survival mechanism. And your survival mechanism is fantastic when there's an actual threat. It's disastrous when there is no threat. What this means is your adrenal glands will release adrenaline and cortisol, and then cortisol will go about instructing all your other chemicals what to do and what to tell their systems that they're in charge of to do based on the perceived nature of the threat. So in this case, you're stationary, there's something wrong with you. We will slow down metabolism, conserve energy, reduce circulation. Kicking out cortisol is usually going to instruct your body to store some fat around your belly. Basically, we're going to just operate at a very subpar level so that hopefully we can outlast whatever it is that's literally trying to take us out. But you're probably not sick, injured, or dying is my guess. You're just sitting. Maybe you are sitting for a long car ride, or you're on an airplane, or you're sitting at your desk, or you're sitting on the couch because you're so exhausted from sitting all day. Whatever the case is, your body doesn't understand the difference between a real threat and one that it's perceiving to be a threat. So as a human who is designed to move, you have to work your best to move your body in some way every hour. Get up from your desk. Break away. I know you can do it. If you can stand instead of sit, stand. If you can move around instead of stand still, move around. If you can move around with more intensity rather than less, let's do that every now and then as well. At the very least, we want to move our bodies as much as we can throughout the day because that is what a human was designed to do. You are not a slug. A slug was not designed to move constantly all day. A human was. So we have to do our very best. And I know this is a big obstacle because we're busy and sometimes being busy means we're not actually moving our bodies. I always like to operate through the lens of you do the best you can in the reality in which you exist. But I do know that often we can do more than we're doing. So that's just a little check-in you want to check with yourself. Can I do something? That's the first question. If your answer is yes, then it's okay, what am I going to do and how hard am I going to do it? So there's a few layers to this process, but the awareness I think is key. And at the very least, if you are properly hydrating your body and properly nourishing your body, you're probably going to need to get up every hour to take care of some things. So That's a great way to kind of take care of two really important habits at once: proper nourishment and hydration, and then it'll force me to have to get up every hour. Now, when it comes to the components of movement, think of your vessel, your human that you're in charge of, as your vehicle. Maybe you have a real vehicle. My guess is you have to do a variety of different types of maintenance on that vehicle if you want it to serve you well in the long run. You can't just get the oil changed and think that your car is going to serve you to its highest functionality for many, many years. There's a likelihood you'll have to rotate the tires, maybe even get new tires at some point. You might need a brake adjustment. You might need to replace the brakes. You might need a wheel alignment. You might need to flush the transmission. You have to put high quality fuel in it. You have to do a lot of different things to service and maintain the vehicle so that it will work well for you for an extended period of time. You're human. This is your vehicle right here. So when we look at the components of fitness, the components of movement, we probably have to do a big variety. And if you already are exercising regularly, awesome, yay, let us celebrate that and keep on doing it. But are you doing all the things necessary to allow your human to function well? So the components of movement: cardio movement, strengthening our heart. The heart is a muscle. It needs to be strengthened, and the only way we make our heart stronger is by pushing it, by challenging it, by doing more than we really probably want to do. So that is called cardio exercise. We have a whole bunch of other muscles as well, and if you want to have strength and stamina to get through your day, maybe keep up with some friends or family members while we're doing some hard physical activities, maybe you just want to go enjoy life and experience life and go see what's out there and do different things, and you have to have some strength and stamina to do that. Perhaps you'd like to remain a healthy, happy, independent, high-functioning human well into your golden years. Well, if that's interesting to you, you're going to need to have muscle in order to do that. And if you are not moving your body parts physically, lifting, pushing, pulling, squatting, carrying consistently throughout your day, you're not using your muscles, which means you're losing them. So not only are you losing the strength that goes along with those muscles, you're also losing the calorie burn that comes from having muscle. So perhaps preventing fat loss or facilitating fat gain is appealing to you. Well, you need muscle for that. So strength training is a very critical piece of the overall fitness puzzle. And I'm going to tell you, it changed my life. I know that for sure. And if you don't embrace strength training sooner rather than later, it's never too late to start. However, the sooner you embrace it, the better. We also probably are going to have to do some intentional focus on our core, our balance, and our flexibility. So thinking about what you do throughout your day. Are you standing with proper posture? Are you sitting with proper posture? Are you engaged in proper alignment as you're moving through your daily activities, as well as you're moving through some of the recreational or physical fitness activities that you're doing? Proper posture and alignment is really going to be necessary to decrease our risk for chronic pain, for maybe some muscular or structural imbalances, definitely for acute injury. And it's those postural exercises, core exercises, that are also going to just help you function and be a better human going throughout life. We don't really have the need to work our core anymore. If you think about, again, back in the day, all of this stuff was built into our lives. If I wanted to get from point A to point B, I physically had to exert effort to get there. Well, I don't really have to do that anymore. I can sit in a car, I can sit on a bus, I can sit on a train, I can sit on an airplane. I can get really, really far without having to do anything. I also don't actually have to work my muscles to simply stay upright, because if I'm sitting, The back of the chair does all that work for me. And if I'm sitting for extended periods of time, well, now my core muscles are deconditioning. Certain body parts are becoming chronically contracted, others are becoming weak and overstretched. Your muscles have muscle memory, so they don't even have a memory of what posture should look or feel like because perhaps I've never been taught. And I don't have the strength or the flexibility to put myself in that position. So double checking even what my posture looks like is going to be a really good first step. I would say a very simple exercise is to stand against a wall with your head, your shoulders, your glutes, your calves, and the back of your heels all touching the wall at the same time. Ears, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles in a straight line. That is ideal alignment. You might recognize this feels very awkward. Some people might not even be able to do it at all because perhaps we've already lost that range of motion because we've spent too much time in an altered position and muscles, ligaments, and tendons have become chronically shortened. Others have become very weak and overstretched, and I don't even have the ability to put my body in that correct position. So we might have to do some stretching and strengthening exercises to simply correct these things. Once we do that, we then need to have the awareness and always be tuning in so that you can auto-correct. When you recognize that you are not in proper posture, you have the ability to adjust on the spot. The balance piece of it, back in the day, we didn't wear shoes, okay? We were out on basically our bare feet. Maybe we had a little protective layer, but it was our bare feet. And so our foot muscles and our stabilizer muscles and our lower leg muscles had to do a lot of work to keep us upright, to keep us balanced. We were also walking on unsteady surfaces. We were walking across logs. We were climbing up and down rocks. We were on unstable ground. So all of those little foot muscles, stabilizer muscles, ligaments, tendons, they had to work together, which means that they were going to be strong. Are you doing that today? Are you walking across logs and scrambling up rocks and on unsteady surface without shoes so that your foot muscles have to do all this work? Probably not. You might not even be doing any of that with shoes on. And so what happens, of course, again, you don't use it, you lose it. Now all the muscles in my feet, the stabilizer muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, all the things that have to come together to keep me balanced, keep me in proper alignment, they either don't even know they have a job to do because they've never been taught, and or they don't have the strength to do their job because they've never been conditioned to do it. So we have to be intentional about working our balance, working the foot muscles, strengthening them, challenging them. Why do you care about this? Well, I don't know. Have you ever been on some unsteady surface? Maybe you're like me and you wear what my good friend Katie dubbed fall off shoes. You fall off your shoe, literally. Yeah, when that happens, you twist an ankle, you fall down, you crack your head open, people laugh at you, whatever, it's not great. Well, if I had strengthened my ankle muscles, my stabilizer muscles, and I feel my foot starting to teeter, the message can go to the brain, send from the brain to the foot muscles and say, hey, you muscles, let's do your job. And they can do their job and contract and you don't fall. And it's a whole different outcome. If your future self would like to be confident to go out and walk on maybe unsteady surface or walk on a little bit of ice or just go and do your life, it's nice to know that your foot and ankle muscles are going to be able to catch you if you start falling. But you have to teach them. You have to challenge them. So stand on one foot, stand on a wobbly surface, stand up on your tippy toes and work those ankle muscles. It's funny because many people will tell me, oh, my balance is terrible. And I'll say, well, how often do you practice? Well, never. Why would I do something I'm not good at? Yeah, well, that's why your balance is terrible, because you never practice. So you have to practice, you have to do it. And the flexibility piece. We have got to maintain or improve our range of motion if we want to remain healthy, happy, thriving, independent individuals well into our golden years. It is natural for ligaments, tendons to start to dehydrate, to shorten. We lose that range of motion. If I'm not practicing and stretching my body parts back out to the positions that they want to be in, those body parts are also going to learn that memory. So maybe I don't even have the ability to reach behind me anymore, or to reach and scratch and itch on my back, because I've been spending so much of my life in a improper position that everything has become tightened up and bunched up. I don't have the momentum or the range of motion to move my body through all of the different radiuses that the joint wants to move. These are just things that we have to start analyzing, and everybody's going to be in a different place. Of course, we're all born with certain structural alignment. Sometimes we're born with really terrible alignment. I had really severe turn in at the pelvis. Back then, they corrected at the feet. So I remember wearing these big red clumpy shoes to correct my pigeon toe. Yeah, except that actually starts at the hips. So it didn't work very well. I don't think there was any kind of physical therapy to strengthen all the muscles and the leg muscles and the adductor and abductor muscles and all the little ankle muscles that need to be strengthened in order to make sure that my hips do stay in the proper position. That didn't exist, at least not in my world, 40 plus years ago. I think it exists now, but I know a lot of people still aren't doing it. So perhaps we have some structural alignment that's not great. Let's work to correct that sooner rather than later. And if we're already at that place where the things we did as kids, maybe as young adults, maybe even as older adults, have led to some chronic pain, maybe some accelerated wear and tear on body parts, there are ways to adjust and correct for that. We just have to go down the road of doing it, because I know one of the reasons people don't exercise is either fear of injury or because it hurts. Well, not exercising is not going to make your life better. I promise you that. So when you're thinking about how to incorporate movement into your life, I want you to think about a few things. Number one, let's focus on what we can do, not what we can't do. It's very easy to say, well, I can't do this because, and I can't do that because, and I can't, and I can't, and I can't. The actual answer probably is, I can, I'm just not willing to because. I even think of that in my own situation. I used to say, well, I can't run because it's bad for my back. No, I can run. I just choose not to because it hurts my back. So I want to take ownership of my choices and know that it's a choice I'm making. I know some people who the activities they do are incredibly excruciating, but they do it anyway. Maybe that's a choice you want to make. I guess it depends on how much you're willing to suffer, how much pain you're willing to endure, and knowing that you're probably sacrificing to some degree the quality of life of your future self if we continue to just beat ourselves down and wear ourselves down. So that's a little bit of a balance check we might want to have. But while I choose to not run, there are so many things that I can do. So I'm going to choose to focus on what I am willing and able to do, not on what I'm not willing or perhaps not able to do. You can always do something. I know this for a fact. I've worked with many, many people who have physical limitations, and yet there's more things they can do than what there is that they can't do. So focus on that. Another question I get very often is, well, how much do I have to do? And it's usually with some attitude of like, ugh, disdain, right? We have this idea that exercise is punishment. It's not. Moving your body is maybe one of the most beautiful ways to honor this vessel that you have been given. You were designed to move, and if you have the capability of moving your body, I'm going to encourage you to be grateful for that, and then to serve your body well by moving it. So an attitude adjustment might be necessary when it comes to our approach to exercise, but ultimately it also doesn't actually matter how much you are supposed to do. What matters is, what are you willing and able to devote in terms of your time and energy? You have to decide every day, how much time and energy am I willing and able to devote to moving my body? Once you've established that, and that might be different on any given day, but once you've established that, then you want to become very intentional about exactly what you're going to do with that time and energy that you've decided you're going to devote. And all of that is going to be determined by what your ultimate purpose is. So I'm going to dive deep into these details in my Movement is Medicine free live webinar that I'm going to be hosting on May 17th. If you want to know more, if you want to bust past some of these obstacles that you find, I am going to encourage you to join. We'll have the link to register in the show notes. And if you sign up for my mailing list, you'll get advance notice of that as well. So feel free to do both. And really start to appreciate that when you move your body, it is going to enhance not only your physical being, but your mental well-being as well. So I want to wrap up this very quick episode here with just a few thoughts on mental health and how our physical health dramatically impacts our mental health, and how movement truly is medicine for your emotions. It's medicine for your mental well-being. And there are so many ways that this plays out. I'm going to just break down a few of them. When you exercise, particularly cardio exercise will do this, but other types as well, we increase the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Some will describe this as fertilizer for your brain. Basically, what BDNF does is it increases the size, the length, and the number of dendrites that each neuron will have. So your neuron is the messaging center. The dendrites are the pathways that messages travel down. And when you have fertilizer for your brain, you are going to grow more pathways off each neuron, and they're going to be longer, which means that we'll have little teeny tiny bridges, your synapses. Those are the bridges that connect dendrite to dendrite so that your messages can continue to move down the path. Well, the more pathways you have for information and thoughts and stimuli to go, the easier it is to organize what's going on in your brain. So you literally are going to grow the functional capacity of your brain, which also allows for all of these thoughts to have places to go instead of just, one option and they all get kind of clustered up into one little section, or they're just hanging out waiting for their turn. So fertilize your brain, do some exercise. That will definitely enhance your mental and emotional well-being, simply because you have more options, more neurological pathways for everything to flow. Most of you know that exercise releases your endorphins, those feel-good chemicals. Literally, that's their job, to make you feel good. I don't know how much easier it gets than that. We also usually gain a sense of confidence. Maybe we have a deeper sense of value, a heightened sense of self-worth, because we know we're doing something good for ourselves. I have met very few people in my 25 years of business and talking with people who hang their head in shame because they've worked out. In fact, it's usually quite the opposite. You hold your head a little higher because you worked out. You did something good for yourself. I have also literally seen it change people's lives from a confidence standpoint. When you have the strength and stamina to do what you want to do, you're confident. That feels good. Mentally and emotionally, you are going to live life a little more fully than if you don't have the confidence to go do what you want to do. It can also physically change how you look. And I don't just mean, you can lose weight or you have more muscle definition. I mean, you stand more proudly. You stand taller. You've improved your posture. That literally will put inches onto you. And when we stand taller and more proudly, that is a different kind of energy that we're putting out. And when we put out a different energy, we usually get back a different energy. Movement is medicine for your mental health in a lot of other ways as well. Maybe we like to do it with friends or as a group activity. Well, that is making connections, fostering real human bonds. And, sometimes we are bonding over this shared miserable experience, right? I mean, oh, it's so horrible, and yet it's really kind of great at the same time. So having a shared experience with other people strengthens our bonds, gives us a sense of belonging. And a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of support is incredibly crucial for our mental and emotional well-being. We can also use movement to help us retrain our brain. So something like yoga or Tai Chi, or maybe something that really involves my concentration, like rock climbing or surfing or kayaking, where I better be focused on what I'm doing, or it could be a relatively disastrous outcome. So if my mind is wandering, I'm going to bring it right back to what I'm doing. When I'm doing a routine like Tai Chi and I'm focusing on breath, or I'm doing yoga and everything that I'm supposed to be focused on is taking place on the mat. So when I notice my brain wandering, which is totally normal because that's what human brains do, I don't judge it, I don't scold it, I don't get mad at myself about it. I just redirect the focus to the mat or to my breath or to the next sequence item and event in the routine. I'm literally training myself to be better at directing my thoughts where I want them to go. And then you go and live your day-to-day life and you notice your brain wandering. Maybe it's going to the past, maybe it's running ahead to the future. We're not going to scold it. We're just going to acknowledge that and say, you know what, not a good time. I'm going to bring it right back to my present. And you are better at doing that because you've been training it through movement. Of course, we also burn energy, right? That's what exercise is. It is releasing energy. Stress is energy. And if you don't do anything to physically release your energy, it's going to a whole bunch of stuff inside you. None of it good. So, whatever degree of mental health issue you have, I promise you movement will make it better. And I firmly believe we all have a degree of a mental health issue. It's a spectrum. Some people, it's not that big of a deal. We can manage the emotions, we can process through things, we learn to let go relatively quickly, we don't get too far into the future. Some of us, it's very, very difficult. There are significant mental health challenges. Maybe it's severe depression, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's bipolar disorder. Maybe it's a whole bunch of combination of a lot of those things. We're all human, so we all have some degree of it. What degree you have to determine that. But I promise you, if you incorporate movement as a consistent part of your life, it will only help. I know it's hard to do that, especially if we're dealing with some very significant issues. It's really hard to go exercise when you just can't even find the will to get out of bed. I can appreciate that. It's hard. And yet I also know it's hard now or harder later. I know if you make that hard choice, it's going to make things better. So I've often said, pick your hard. For those who maybe don't feel like you really struggle with mental health issues, let us celebrate that. I've taught many classes on this, and I've had more than one person say to me, I feel bad. I feel really bad that I have all these people in my life who are really struggling and I don't. And they don't actually believe me. They think that I'm lying or that I'm suppressing it, but I really don't struggle. And sometimes I've actually lied. I'll tell them, yeah, I have anxiety too, even if I don't. And when people tell me this, I can relate to some degree. I would say I'm one of those people that's on the lower end of the spectrum with mental health issues. I don't have significant difficulty with it. I'm very grateful for that. I don't think I'm better than anybody because of that. It's just not my thing. And I'm really grateful for that. But I also understand that just because it's not my thing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean it's not a real thing. So I think it's my duty as somebody who doesn't struggle with it to talk about it, to help educate other people who maybe don't struggle with it, who don't really think it's a real thing, to let them know that it is. And you should be grateful that this is not your challenge, but also understand that not everybody is you. And there's probably things for you that are hard that aren't hard for those people, right? We all have our hard. So if you are somebody who this is not hard for you, I'm going to encourage you to understand it to the best of your ability. We will never be able to fully understand it because you can't live in that kind of space if it's not your space. But I can learn about it, I can appreciate it, I can learn to identify the signs when somebody might be struggling so that maybe I can reach out and help, offer support, offer guidance. I can be there to just have someone to talk to. Maybe I can be that person who's going to start the hard conversation because somebody who's struggling is not ready or willing to do that. Whatever role you have, I'm going to just hope that you use it to the best of your ability to advance this conversation. You know, there's still a stigma, and I think it's a stigma because we still don't talk about it. Or it's a stigma because there are still people who believe it's not a real thing. And it takes all of us, those who really do struggle with it. It also takes you talking about it. And I know that's hard. I get it. Well, I do not struggle with it. I lived with somebody who struggled tremendously. And I mean, I have to say, I learned a lot through living with that. A greater degree of understanding and empathy and compassion. I also learned a lot about me. I learned that the line between support and enabling is very, very thin. So, you know, there are many facets to all of this conversation, and by no means do I claim to be an expert in any way. But having worked with lots of people who do struggle and having had that in my life to some degree, I know there's a lot we can all learn, and we can all become better at navigating through some of these challenges that people face, and being that supportive person, being that person who is open and willing to talk about it so that everybody becomes more comfortable having this conversation. That is my wrap for today. I know it was a lot of me. I don't know if I channeled my inner Sasha or not, but hopefully you found a couple of little nuggets in there that you will find useful. Take a deep breath. I think that's always a good place to start. No matter where you are and what you're doing, if you are feeling anxious or triggered in any way, number one, take a deep breath. Sometimes it truly is that simple. At the very least, it's going to provide a little oxygen to your brain so you can start to think a little more clearly, which is probably going to be a good thing. All right, everybody, that is officially all I have. I thank you for joining in today. We have lots of great guests coming up this month, focusing on mental health awareness, a couple other little fun ones as well. So I hope you'll tune into those episodes. And as you know, it is my hope that you will go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.